5-minute call on behalf of the Green Party, Gareth Hughes.
Oh, thank you, Mr Speaker. Kia ora, na mihi nui kia koutou. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
It's quite interesting actually listening to Catherine Delahunty and Tracy Martin's contributions. The national members are slowly zigging in their seats and not really providing a response at all. We got these limp excuses that the whip told me not to speak for very long. But I've got a message for those members who have had an education from the contribution in this debate. They've been educated by the two previous female speakers we've heard, is that they may think that not many people are watching the parliamentary broadcast or are sitting in the chambers tonight watching this education legislation bill pass through. Maybe they think people aren't focusing on the legislative process of the House. But you know what? When a parent next year, an election year, goes to their school and asks, where's the principal? And the secretary says, well, they're managing the other school across the road. Then they're going to start to take notice and wonder what this government's doing to our education system, which is so important to New Zealanders. When they turn up to a school and find it's being run by some tertiary education institute, some polytech from out of town, then they're going to ask their local national MP or write to the National Education Minister, or whoever that is, what are you doing to education, which is so important to me as a New Zealander? So, Mr Speaker, while maybe many people aren't watching now, they should be paying attention, because this is bad legislation. It's bad legislation the Green Party will be opposing. I rise to speak with two hats on, Mr Speaker, and the first one is as a father. As a father who's got two kids in the state education system who think their teachers and principals do a wonderful job, they've got enough on their plate now running one school, focusing on this kids in the one school, let alone trying to manage multiple schools. As a father, I support the idea of flexible hours for schools. As someone who cares about urban transport and cleaning up our cities and reducing congestion, I like the idea we can have flexibility. But, Mr Speaker, we have flexibility when it comes to school hours at the moment. As a parent, I don't want to turn up as a result of this legislation, and I don't think any other parent in this country does, and find that hours of the school day have been radically changed. That's when people are going to pay attention to education, which is so important to New Zealanders. The second hat, of course, is the tertiary education spokesperson for the Green Party. I want to see our tertiary education providers focus on providing high-quality, affordable, accessible tertiary education, not focusing on running charter schools for profit. We have enough pressures in that sector already because of the reducing quantum of funding from the government, because of all the other requirements we've seen, to be worrying about running charter schools for profit. We should be shutting down the charter schools that have been running for profit, not trying to get other entities involved. And I stand by the Labour Party and Green Party minority view in this legislation from the second reading, which shows that, in fact, this is an admission of failure by the government on their controversial charter schools project. Just lastly, as someone who was once a student, the idea that this government is removing the 2-month consultation requirement for the changing of fees, I think, is egregious. I think it's just another example how this government treats consultations with a sham affection. We've seen so many consultations on so many different areas being treated with disrespect by government ministers such as Jonathan Coleman, that we should be not reducing in government legislation the idea that students, the people actually paying the fees, should be consulted. So, Mr Speaker, once again we see bad legislation passing through a bad process, as we've heard from previous speakers. I believe New Zealanders, even though they may not be listening to this debate, will be caring about the state of their education system, and they'll be asking questions of all those national members why the school hours are radically changing, while the principal's off managing another school, why there's a tertiary education provider running some of our schools for profit. These are the things New Zealanders care about. These are the questions that will be asked, and we'll be able to say in the Green Party benches we were proud to oppose it. We were proud to stand up for high quality education at the primary and tertiary level.